Absolute Wonder Woman just took Batman to the pits of hell, and it was all because Batman feels really guilty.
Peak fiction incoming.
Now before we jump into this issue, let's just address the elephant in the room, because I'm sure you've been wondering where the heck Character Crave has been. Well, all I'm gonna say without giving away too many details is that I've been sick and topside. Some of you may get that reference, some of you may not, but all that matters is I'm here now when it matters the most, because the newest issue of your favorite comic series is finally here, and we're gonna break this thing down from start to finish. But before we jump into the breakdown, you guys would be so cool and swaggy if you not only dropped a like, but also dropped a freaking comment, because it really does help out the page. Without further ado though, if you guys don't remember, the last issue consisted of Absolute Batman and Wonder Woman meeting up for the very first time when Diana summoned a giant glowing bat symbol up into the air because she needed somebody to help her get to the bottom of 4 recent murders that were all connected. Unbeknownst to her though, these murders were orchestrated by none other than Absolute Joker and Veronica Kell, because after the events of Absolute Bane and all the other hecticness in the Absolute universe, the heroes started growing in popularity, which Veronica and Joker weren't really fond of. So eventually Batman and Wonder Woman started doing some detective work by investigating the spots in which these murders took place, where they'd end up discovering clues that led them to an old abandoned church, and upon further investigation of this church, they realized that 7 cloaked figures were performing some sort of ritual on some sort of weird looking body. So Batman smashed his way in through the roof, hoping that they could put a stop to whatever these people were trying to do, only to realize just moments later that they were being lured into a trap, because in the middle of trying to interrupt the ritual, Wonder Woman was overcome by complete and utter darkness, which ultimately forced our two heroes into a gruesome and ferocious battle where it looked like Batman was gonna end up dying, because obviously Wonder Woman is like 10 times more powerful than him. But thankfully, because Diana gifted him a magical enchanted talisman immediately upon crossing paths, Bruce was able to use that talisman to revert Diana back into her normal state of mind. But even after that, he realized that the entire church was rigged with a bunch of explosives, so he had to scoop Diana up into his arms and dive out of the building, where they then exchange a few last words about how they were gonna save the world together before going their separate ways. This issue, on the other hand, picks up in an entirely different scenario, with Bruce arriving to a construction site before being teased by some of his co-workers because it was his first day back on the job. But once all the guys started working and were given a little bit of context, we realized that they're actually making some repairs to the Veterans Arena that Bruce and Bane ended up destroying in the process of their final showdown. Nevertheless, once they were finished digging, sweating, and laying down a bunch of concrete, Bruce's foreman, known as Mr. Fox, ended up pulling him to the side to express how much he appreciated Bruce's help, stating that it was great to have him back on the team, and even though he'd been absent for quite a while now, he knew he wouldn't have taken so much time off if he wasn't dealing with something serious. However, shortly after that, he'd asked Bruce if he was doing